So welcome everybody today. You are in for a wonderful treat with the EQ community. Today you are going to see a fabulous fireside conversation with Alex from AWS, Shana from American Express, and Carol Fulp, who's represented Obama's administration. A little bit about EQ. So EQ is a place where we provide connections, we provide community, and a career to support you along your journey. And today you are in fantastic hands with your host and your moderator today, Jennifer Francis. Jennifer has held titles in the art world for many years as being an executive, and more poignantly was responsible for opening the Louvre in Abu Dhabi. So I'm Marcus Sawyer. I'm happy to see everybody. I'm happy to see all the community members. Let's have a fantastic show. And Jennifer, it's over to you.
Thank you very much, Marcus, and hello, everyone. It's great to be here, and I'm delighted to present to you this impressive lineup of panelists that we have today. As you heard, we've got Shana Cooper-Silas, Alex Rigaud, and Carol Fulp. So without further ado, let's meet Shana Cooper-Silas. She is the head of traveler product delivery for American Express Global Business Travel and founding member of Chief. And she's held many roles, senior roles for many years. So welcome, Shana. And to start, can you please share the trajectory of your career to date with us?
Yes, thank you, Jennifer, for the warm welcome, and Marcus, and thank you all for joining this session. So a little bit about my career. I was a former engineer, so I started out a very technical career. And then I really wanted to challenge. I had all these questions. I remained curious as a young tech person when I first joined the industry. And that curiosity led me to cross over into the business side of things. And that sort of started my trajectory on leadership, particularly in the product. I've worn so many hats. I've worn entrepreneur, I've worn co-founder, engineer, and now today I'm leading products for large enterprise companies like American Express. And so that's a little bit about Shana. Jennifer, you're on mute.
The questions are already coming in. I wanted to just say thank you, Shana, and welcome. We're not going to handle those just yet because we now want to meet Alex Rigaud. Alex, welcome to this historic EQ milestone. To everyone out there, Alex Rigaud is a senior manager of infrastructure demand planning at Amazon Web Services. And before that, he was an executive director in one of the departments at Novartis. He has also worked at Accenture in an executive role. So Alex, can you share with us the story of your rise through the corporate world and corporate America in particular, please?
Yes, certainly. And thank you, Jennifer and Marcus, for the warm intro. And thank you, everyone in the audience, for attending today. My rise through the corporate culture has been quite interesting. I basically never turned down a challenge. So anytime a leader or a manager, director would ask me, hey, would you like to take the opportunity to try X, Y, Z? I was always the one that said, sure. If someone asked in the room, hey, we need someone to do ABC, I always would raise my hand because, you know, you never know until you try. And if you try it and you fail, it's a learning opportunity. And then you move forward and you add that to your career. So I was fortunate enough to have some great leaders who were very patient with me and very hands-on mentoring and educating me on ways to work and how to do and how to evolve in my career. So it's been a great ride so far, and I'm looking forward to making it continue.
Again, sorry, my mute button. So I want to delve deeper into that very shortly, but as well as talking about some of the observations and challenges, but not before we welcome our next guest, who is Carol Fulp. And to everyone out there, Carol is a public speaker and strategic advisor to CEOs and senior executives on diversity, inclusion, and culture. She utilizes research from her well-recognized business book, Success Through Diversity, Why the Most Inclusive Companies Will Win, to evolve organizations to the next level of diversity. Over 100 companies have retained Carol to speak about her work, including Microsoft, Google, McKinsey, the Boston Red Sox, CVS, and Deloitte. But furthermore, she was representative of the United States to the 65th session of the UN General Assembly, and she was appointed by President Obama in 2010. Carol, it's an absolute honor and privilege to welcome you here to this EQ Fireside Chat. We're dying to hear your story about rising in the workplace. Over to you.
Well, Jennifer, thank you. And Marcus, thank you, as well as Lee. And I'm delighted to be a member of the EQ community. So it is my honor to be here with my esteemed panelists. I am a member, a proud member of the civil rights era. I marched on Washington as a child with my parents. And so I had the opportunity to see doors open that were initially closed to us as people of color. So like Alex, when opportunities came available, I took every opportunity. And I am passionate about diversity and inclusion because I'm so cognizant of how many others fought and died so that all of us here could be holding the positions that we hold today. So I've had the opportunity to work in human resources at the Gillette Company. I've worked in human resources again at the ABC TV affiliate, at Boston, and also grew to head up community programming, moved on to head up the community foundation of the John Hancock Company, but all the while focused on advancing people of color. And when President Obama appointed me to the United Nations, when I came back to Boston, my objective was to help Boston look more like the United Nations. And the United Nations, you find that 29%, Jennifer, you will appreciate this, 29% of the member states are from Africa. When you look at that sea of ambassadors, when you're at that iconic podium on the stage and you look out, you realize that the world is primarily Black and brown and yellow. And so how do we ensure our companies, our organizations are reflecting that rich diversity that is the world and soon to be the majority in America today?
Wow. So EQ community, you can see we're in for a really exciting conversation. So what I'd like to do is, hearing from all of you has thrown up many subjects, and I want to delve into those before we actually get to a question. So I'm going to open up the floor, and I want to throw out some big concepts and just come in and talk to us about it from your perspective. So the first thing I want to talk about really is challenges and obstacles that you've faced along the way. What was your biggest hurdle and how did you get over it? So who wants to go first?
I can start. So one of my biggest hurdles as a female in the technology space was being one, Black, and also being female, which was almost never seen in other places of my workspaces. So I was always the only one. So not only am I the only female, I am now only the only Black female on teams. And so I never had a mentor. I never had a blueprint. I never had someone that was just ahead of me in my career that can sort of help pave the way. And I noticed that challenge very, very early on in my career. And so what I did was I had to seek in other industries, other mentors, even if it wasn't directly in my industry, in my space. And I sought out, outside of my team, outside of my organization. So I would even seek a marketing executive, just so I had a pathway to navigate challenges that you face at work. And that was one way I was able to overcome filling in a gap that was just based on life and industry. And it's something I experienced over the 20 years of my career. I think up until recently is the first time I'm starting to see more diverse folks, not only gender, but also racial at the table.
Yeah, that great points, Shana. I mean, for me, one of my biggest challenges was the fact that I'm a nice guy, and in corporate politics, nice guys finish last. And I've always been told by leaders that you're just too nice for for corporate. You may want to try something different. But I would always prove them wrong because I explained to them, it's not that I'm being nice just because I am a nice guy, but I want people to realize that they are human. We're not automatons. We're not robots. We're not AI machines. These are people that we're working with, and they have real lives, real families, things outside of the corporate life. And trying to educate my leadership on that fact, on thinking in terms of when you're talking to your teams, remember that that's a person that you're talking to. They're going to mess up. They're going to screw up. They're going to have mistakes. And it's been quite the challenge, but for me, it's been a fun and educational challenge because I've learned the different types of personalities that I will encounter. And for those that I mentor and advise, I coach them and explain to them that, listen, not everyone's going to be on the same page as you. Not everyone's going to agree with you. And definitely a lot of people are going to, challenge you. But the way that you face up to it, do you confront it head on and try to be, a ram and butt heads? Or do you try to find the common ground? At Georgetown, I took a course in diplomacy. And to this day, I still remember that the professor who taught me, Dr. Aaron, said, the hardest thing someone can do is realize that they need to take a step back and look for the common ground instead of trying to force their opinion through. And that is something that I've taken to heart. And every time I feel myself about to start being the ram and butting heads, I take that step back. Okay, what is the common ground that we're both trying to find? And let's take it that way.
Well, Alex, you'd be a great ambassador because that's exactly what we try to do is meet in the middle. But the greatest obstacle that I've experienced, and I think many of us as people of color experience, is buying into society's perception of us, the perception that Black and brown people are not as good as. And this is ingrained in our society in so many ways. And so it's really important for us to really acknowledge the assets that difference brings. The fact that as individuals of difference, we've had to learn, all of us here have had to learn at an early stage how to navigate obstacles that have been thrown in our past through no fault of our own. We've had to navigate and learn who is going to be with us, who's going to be against us, again, through no fault of our own. But what we've also done is when it's our time to lead, we've ensured that everyone is included. So Johnny, who's quiet in the corner, we've said, now, Johnny, what do you think about that? Because we know what it feels like to be excluded. And I also say that as people of difference, we know how to read a room like that. And so I ask CEOs, wouldn't you want people like that on your team? And so as a young individual, a young professional of color, I would always worry, was I as good as? But today, it's so important that people understand, as a person of difference, these are the advantages that I bring to organizations that others have not had the experience. And this is clearly an asset.
That's amazing. And I want to come back shortly and talk about what it's like being Black in the corporation today. But that's just what a powerhouse. So I want to talk now about resilience, about strength, and actually the evolution of your support systems over the years during your career. Who wants to jump in and kick off on that topic?
Well, I have a colleague, a senior colleague, who says some people are in your life for a season, and some people are in your life for a reason. And I love that, because you understand that as you grow, you may need different individuals with you. But it's really important, no matter who has been in your life to help you grow, that you acknowledge them and that you stay in touch and let them know how you're doing. Because your success has been a part of the involvement that they have engaged in you. A couple of years ago, a colleague who is a CEO of the PBS station here, a colleague who is now owns her own media company, CEO of her own media company, and I said, let's take the president of the ABC TV affiliate out to lunch and thank him for investing in us early on. Because of that, we are all now CEOs. And that was important to do. The other thing too, and Alex mentioned it, is that the higher you go, the lonelier it is. So it's important to have your own kitchen cabinet. So every Thursday at 5:30, I have my kitchen cabinet meeting with 3 other women who are also African-American, at similar levels, similar challenges, but it's a support group that we can be honest with, we can cry with, we can be silly with, but it's a group that you can be yourself with, because externally, you're not able to do that, but you need a place where you can just be yourself, particularly the higher you go.
Just to echo Carol, I call it my top 8. So I've always traveled with my top 8 throughout my career, and it's some of it is individuals that I want to meet, that I want in my life, that I want to be my mentor. And then others, it's the individuals that I've collected over my career in friendships and colleagues and working with projects. And we don't meet as often as you and your friends do on Thursday, but we do meet often. We always keep a group chat going. We always keep a group email going. And sometimes you just need, in it same, I love the statement of the kitchen cabinet. I call it my top 8. Hey, top 8. Here's what I'm going through. Here's what is happening. I need some feedback. I need some windows and mirrors, is what I like to say. You know, am I looking through the mirror on this situation, or is this one of these situations where someone needs to place a mirror in my face and let me reflect on where I am and where I stand? Because you can always look at a situation on the external, but it's until you mature enough to look at it internally. Is it a window? Is it a mirror? And what can I bring to this challenge or this situation to move it forward externally? And so I definitely lean right into the internal, you know, team, kitchen cabinet, top 8. It could not live without it.
And for me, yeah, I have what I call my core, and it consists of professionals that have been in my life throughout my career. I've been fortunate enough to lead some incredible teams that the people I was their leader, we stayed very close in touch. And one of the things I always ask someone when I'm looking to hire someone is, can you tell me no? Can you challenge my decision? And thankfully, I have a group of individuals who I'm, again, at almost, not on a weekly basis, but say every other week, I will ping and just say, hey, this is what I've been doing. What are your thoughts? And they'll be, you know, completely honest and transparent and give me, you know, some great advice. And it helps to have multiple opinions so you can figure out what is the best path forward for yourself. And that's where it's helped me a lot. In addition, I cannot thank enough my parents and my aunts and uncles. You know, being the son of immigrants, Haitian immigrants, has been a blessing, because I've had the fortune of seeing my parents, you know, raising 6 kids and going to school and working in investment banking back in the 70s and 80s, and working their way through the hierarchy, and realizing that even to this day, that any challenge I face, it's really nothing compared to what they had to deal with. Like the things that I remember my mother dealing with when she was working at Chemical Bank in New York City in the 80s. Right now, I look at some of the challenges. My team will say, hey, I don't want to bother you with this, but you know, I need your help here. And I'm looking and going, oh, that's nothing. Yeah, we got that covered. But being able to rely on my parents and my family to ask them for advice and input when it comes to some of these challenges. They may not understand the technical aspect, but they at least understand the decision-making process, and they help me find that way through what I need to do, or what I should do, and options to consider. I love it when I talk to my father on Sundays, and the first question that comes out of his mouth is, so what bad decisions did you make this week? And it's good, because we all make them. The challenge is owning up to them. And I'll tell them, like, yeah, I did this, I did that. I realized that, you know, I messed up there, and it's a learning experience, and I move on. So.
Fabulous. Just for me, I'm just realizing that some of the things that have been missing in my life, some of the things that I resonate for me, but yet I suppose part of difference is also difference country-wise and continent-wise, and some of the ways that some other communities can benefit from hearing how it works in Black America. And I want to just pick up on that for a minute and just ask you, what's it like being Black in the corporation today, externally as well as inside the organization?
I equate it to carrying 1,000 pounds on my shoulder while walking on eggshells, because it's the sense, especially in after the events these past couple of years, it's as I feel in certain meetings I'll enter in, every eye is on me. and they're focused to see if I slip up, if I display one of the characteristics or traits that they have the preconception or misconception, I should say, of a Black man coming into their environment or into the office. But one thing I did do is I actually had a very frank discussion with my manager at AWS about it. And I told him, this is how I feel every day. Just so you understand, if I tend to be quiet in a meeting, one, to your point, Carol, I'm observing the room and reading every single person and seeing what their mannerisms are, what their attitudes are and everything. But secondly, I am trying to figure out how to approach the group and make my statements without being seen as XYZ characteristic of a black man or Black individual in the boardroom. So it is a challenge. But again, like I say, compared to previous generations, it's not as hard as before. We have the seat at the table, we earned it. Now it's our job to hold on to it.
I like that, Alex. I call that, I walk around with imposter syndrome every day, all day. And it wasn't always that. It was blind optimism when I was younger. And then as I got older and you climb up to your point, Carol, reading the room, you get the feedback outside that you're like looking through that mirror and that window. I know that's not something I brought to the table. But what has gotten me forward is accepting the fact that imposter syndrome lives there, will live there. And it's the little guy I sit on here on the shoulder. And instead of being afraid of it, I embrace it. And I say, yes, maybe I don't feel so well equipped to be on this panel, but I was chosen and I am here and I'm present. And so all I can do is bring my whole self. And it's that reminder that imposter syndrome is always going to be with me, and just to continue forward. I also do other tricks. I came from a childhood of the arts and not only going to theater and participating in theater. So I had the schedule of dance and drama and those sort of things as a child. And I never really understood how did they really help me in my life today as a product leader today in professional world. But it helped me so much, because oftentimes you have to just pretend like some of those blinders are not there. You know what? I'm in this room and I read this room, but you know what? You're going to love me when you get to know me. And you're going to, and my friends term my personality sometimes as the slow drip on water. It's going to be that slow drip. And eventually the dent will be there, and it will be the impression that lasts forever. And so I say, embrace it. I saw a comment from someone in the chat. Embrace that you're the maternal. Embrace that you are the human of the team in your organization that people can depend on. And then you sell that and upsell that as your brand. And it's okay for that to be your brand. It's okay for you to be the giver or the caretaker if that's what you are authentic in your own self is, embrace it.
Wow. That was very profound from both of you. And I very much appreciate you sharing that with everyone. And it certainly indicates what you're bringing to the job, in addition to the excellence you're bringing. But Shana, I want to tell you, and I don't think I could have told you this 10 years ago, but I want to tell you that you won't always have the imposter syndrome, that it goes. And here's how it went for me. When I decided to write the book, I decided to write Success Through Diversity, Why the Most Inclusive Companies Will Win, because it's about winning. But I decided to write it because I have something to say. For all the rooms we have been in, and for all the rooms where we'd have to be careful about what we'd say and how we had to navigate it, particularly after George Floyd, I felt free because America wanted to know, how did we get here? And so that's an opportunity to tell them, we have always been like this. And so let me share with you. So this is an opportunity because America and American businesses want to be able to understand this challenge that we're in regarding race. And you, all of you, have an opportunity to really educate them. I tell people that in order to understand, you have to follow this model. You have to listen, you have to learn, and then enact change. And so those people in the room, not everyone is going to buy what you have to say, but you have so much knowledge about an area they know nothing about. And if companies are going to be able to succeed in this multicultural country, they're going to need to hear from you and from Alex and from everybody who is different. And that's why we should be freed to be different. We can't afford, companies can't afford to conform anymore. I truly feel if companies don't diversify and create cultures where people of difference feel they belong, then if they don't, their competitor will, and they'll win, because it's about winning. And so we don't have to be imposters anymore, because it's important for us to share the knowledge that business people, that's my little pug there, that business people are not aware of. And that's our job. That's our responsibility.
Wow, it just keeps coming. And I do want to talk to you very shortly about, our responsibility in terms of the next generation. But before I go there, I want to just switch it a little bit in terms of, oh, beautiful, very, very nice, Carol. So I just want to ask you about major monumental milestones in your life, where as an executive, just talk to us about some of the really high points career-wise that you've been really proud of. And if you can help us join the dots of how it happened. But, you've done amazing things, which is why you're on this panel. We're really proud of you. Let's hear some of those.
So one of the things I know I'm most proud of is a mother. Being a mother, a working mother, and I'm a mother of 2 girls, is such a rewarding job. It's like having a little reminder always around you ×2 on where you're going, where you've been, and how you're moving. So leading by example allowed me to become also a better leader in my organization, right? Because I took that example of leading as a mother by example in my career. So one of the things I did was I always, from job to job or opportunity to opportunity, I always said to myself, what is this opportunity for? Is this opportunity here because I'm going to learn something new? Is this opportunity here because I'm going to learn something about myself? I always gave a status of why and not chase the money or not chase the title. I really always brought it back to is how is it going to impact me? And so midway in my career, I had a very established career, top senior executive in my space. I was working for IBM, left IBM, then moved on to HP, and I had this sort of trajectory. And then I got to this point mid-level and I wanted to become a mom, and I had no blueprint of what to do next. And so I had a friend who told me, Well, go back to what you always do. You always say, before you take an opportunity, what are you getting out of this? And so in that choice, I chose to pivot. And that's when I tried to be the entrepreneur, to be the co-founder, because I wanted to lead things on my terms. And in that, I learned so much more about myself. I learned so much more about the skills that I brought to an organization. And so when that journey was over and I wanted to return to the corporate space, I returned twofold over than when I left. And so that in that message and in that journey of my success, what I take from that is chase what is internally to you, what makes you happy, not is what this company or this title or this name or this dollar, because in the end, it's all you. I think from the previous generation before me, I used to get messages like, you gotta sacrifice, you just gotta do it. You have to take the L, you have to be quiet, you have to just play the role, you have to get interview hair. Like I was coached, that's how I was coached coming up. Press your hair, get interview hair. And what I learned in my own journey was ultimately I am the person that shows up. It's Shana, and Shana needs to be whole. She needs to be her whole self. And when I embraced that, it allowed me to move and navigate my career in my own benefit. So in the end, I am always happy. And when I'm no longer happy what I'm doing, I'm very comfortable making that switch without any hesitation.
Shana, I echo your point. It's all about the opportunity and the growth. I always tell people, growing up, my parents were always about, you gotta get there to get get to the solid company, a reputable company, be with them for 20 years, 25 years. Ironically, my mother was pushing me to join IBM at one point. But for me, it was really about looking for what gave me a challenge, what gave me that opportunity to really grow up and leapfrog in terms of my knowledge set, my skill set, so that I could further move up the chain in my career, move up the corporate ladder, have doors open for more opportunities. For me, it came when I was actually at a client with Accenture, and the client was doing this massive global project, and they just couldn't stand the PM that was in place. And so I was asked just to come over and just do a review of the contract and so on and so forth. But I sat there with the client, and he was explaining to me all the challenges, and listening to him, and he was a man of color. I just remember sitting and looking at him going, what exactly is the problem here? Is it that the person isn't filling the role, or is it your expectations aren't what you are? They're not meeting expectations you have that you are putting on them without letting them know. I didn't realize I said that out loud. He looked at me and he said, I want you to stay here because you actually said what you were thinking. And I tell you this, that will carry you further in your career than you realize. Don't be afraid to say what you're thinking in the moment, because sometimes that will actually be a huge help to you. And that's where I realized, okay, I need to, speak up more. As my old boss, Liz, would tell me, I need to talk more because I have a lot to offer. But it's really looking and seeing, well, what will work for me? What will help me develop? And it means also looking for something that's outside my comfort zone. When data science started to become very big, I looked at it and was like, I avoided databases and data for a reason for most of my career. Now this is becoming the core. I need to learn this. And so even though I was, not really, my coding skills were antiquated, to say the least, rolled my sleeves up, started to do Python, started taking courses again, and pushed myself to learn and understand, and then eventually start developing different governance models, data models that are still in use at my previous company at Novartis for their manufacturing plants. And it was going outside that comfort zone, things I did not know about. And you're going to encounter that no matter what industry, no matter what field, no matter what role you take. You're going to encounter something you just don't know. Embrace it and learn from it. Look and find out what you need to know in order to be successful at it. And I tell people right now, I'm like, you have one advantage I myself and our parents did not have. You have internet search. I'm not going to say Google because that's what everyone uses, but I'm not going to show preferential treatment here. But for me, I mean, growing up, I remember my father bringing home magazines on programming and on how to build or do tile work, carpentry, stuff like that, because we had to read in order to learn how to do something. Now you just you look up on YouTube and you're good to go. So don't be afraid to learn a new skill set. It's out there. The information is just waiting out there for you to take advantage of it. And I tell you, others are doing it. If you don't, someone else will. Someone else will not be scared of spending 6 to 8 weeks on taking online courses to better themselves. One of my neighbors here explained to me that she has too much, not enough time because she has going to the gym, doing this, doing that, because she's like, I can't really do any of my career development stuff. And I look at her and went, what do you do at night when I hear your TV? And she's like, well, I'm watching TV. I'm like, while you're watching TV, the person who wants that position is online learning the skills. Take that into account and make that judgment call. Is watching your show and binging your show more important than learning a life-changing skill? I would beg to differ, no.
I think the panelists have given such wonderful responses. And I have to tell you what has really helped me is understanding that I was in a particular position in a corner office, and what good was it if I didn't leverage it to help others? And in this particular case, it was Katrina that hit, and I head up the John Hancock Foundation. And because Black people were so affected, and here we were in Boston headquarters, I decided to put together a group of executive women, including the governor's wife, the mayor's wife, other executive women, for an initiative called Boston Women Build in the Bayou. And we raised, I don't know, $150,000 to build a home for a family in New Orleans. So we built the Boston House, and we all went down and we got the ABC TV affiliate to cover it. But to leverage the fact that my heart said, this is something I should do, but yet I work for a company and I need to make sure that I'm taking care of my company. I had the sales representatives from John Hancock, New Orleans, do all the interviews so that they could say, this is the kind of company I work for. They came down, they brought all of these women, and they are building a house here in New Orleans. And so this is the kind of company they are, and I'm proud to have them here. So for me, I wanted to go and do for my people. I leveraged the position I had. I leveraged everyone else in the city who wanted to do something. And I leveraged the fact that if we're going to do something, I had to make sure that my company benefited. And so at the end of the day, it was a win, win, win. And those are opportunities that I think are most important, because at the end of the day, when we pass away, our success dies with us unless we pass it along. And so it's so important that whatever we have, whatever access we have, that we pass that baton on, that we help others, because that's the true meaning of our existence.
Thank you. So now we're going to go to a few questions. They've been coming in thick and fast. So I'm going to drop the question, and any of you who want to answer, come back. The first question I've got, I'm going to name check the person. Nolan Horton is asking about, he's interested to hear about a breakthrough project or experience that you felt established your credibility or confidence as a leader amongst your peers. And how did you keep momentum going? And if we can do, because we've got quite a few questions, we're going to try to get through, sort of rapidly get through. But did you get that one? I'll leave that one with you to start with.
So Nolan, I would say really quickly, number one is you have to decide when you're at your company, what is your legacy? And Carol just tipped on it a little bit. And what she's talking about is, what is your legacy? What are you looking to leave behind in this organization? This role, what are you bringing to it? Once you've decided that, you build your own brand, just like you would a project, right? You define, this is the brand, this is the legacy I'm looking to leave. These are the folks I need to build those good cross-functional relationships with. And you roll up the sleeves as a team player. I don't care where you come from, your background, who you with. You still have to get it done as a team collectively. If you want to be a leader, you first be a teammate. If you're a good teammate, others will naturally find a good leader and follow the leader.
Exactly. To your point, Shana, it's really building a strong team, because no project is delivered by an individual. It's always a team effort. For me, it was the fact that I was known for being able to deliver complex, challenging projects. That was when I did my first two, that legacy carried with me throughout my career. And that's what I was known for. I was always picked whenever we had a challenging client when I was consulting. Well, get Rigaud. He can throw him into the fire, throw him into the deep end of the pool, pour some petrol on it, light it on fire. He'll get it done. Don't worry about it. But that's the thing. It was establishing your brand of what you want to be known for. I wanted to be known as a guy who could come in and deliver no matter the situation. And building on that and building a team around me that could help me achieve that was key. Teams that I could trust and that knew we're going to go through a lot, but trust me, on the other side, it's going to feel so awesome.
Why don't we move on to the next question so that we're able to go through all of these, because these two guys are phenomenal. They're phenomenal and they've given great responses. So I'm happy to take the next question.
Great, so I'm going to read it out. It's I found that Regina Ford is saying, I found that people of colour need to make an intentional commitment to support each other, to navigate the corporate work environment. It's still the Underground Railroad. If I get to the north, I'm bringing others with me. Have you found this type of support from other people of colour important to you or for you in your journeys?
First of all, you are intentional about your effort and what's important to you. And Shana mentioned it in terms of legacy. What is your legacy going to be? And anyone who is not along the same path, that's not of interest to you. You only want to surround yourself with people who have the same core values and the same core beliefs. You don't need to have a deep relationship with someone who may be working so that they make a lot of money. If there's nothing wrong with that, if that's their objective, fine. But if you're interested in making a lot of money and making the community a lot of money too, then you will find those people who want to do that. So one has to be intentional about who they surround themselves with, and understand everybody's not going to fit into your mold, but find those who have the same values, and those will be your colleagues for life.
Any other takers on that?
Yeah, Regina, thank you for the question. Good to see you again. Yeah, no, it's definitely been a journey where I've had, I've been privileged to have people of color who would support me and help bring me along. But I've also had the challenge where I've had people who just bolted and left others behind. And to Carol's point, those are ones I just said, you know what, that's it, cut them off. I'm not going to worry about them further. Not my problem, not a concern. But those who support me, especially my last lead, Liz Theophil, who's the CTTO of Novartis, to this day, I will message her on a weekly basis just to check in, because she helped really pull me up as a woman of color leading a Fortune 50 company in IT. I was like, I literally told her when I left, I was like, I'm keeping you on my keychain, just so you know, because we're not disconnecting here.
And the only piece I would also add to it is people of color in leadership are not your only go-tos, right? It's about aligning with again, who you are, what you want, what makes you happy. And that may not be a person of color, and it's okay. You're at the organization for a bigger purpose than just looking for the next person of color executive to show you I like the question of the railroad, the Underground Railroad. There is no Underground Railroad, really, is it? It is really about human connections, and those don't necessarily always have to be a person of color in leadership. You'll be surprised when you show up as your authentic self and be truly transparent and honest on what you're looking to learn, how many others are willing to help, regardless of where they come from.
And if I can just follow up on that, this is an important point for me. I had an assistant for 17 years. She was with me at John Hancock, and when I went to leave the partnership, she came with me, which was a big deal to leave a big company to go to a small organization. And she's white. And more the difference, I'm a staunch Democrat and she's a staunch Republican. But what we found was our core values were the same. And I really, really value that relationship. I value it for what we believe in terms of our values, but I also value it for our differences. And I realized, were it not for the world of work, I never would have met a person like that. And I really believe we are richer today, and we still stay connected. We are richer today for having these experiences. And that's what the world of work brings you.
So on that note, I'm going to go around and ask you for your one major tip that you want to leave with our fabulous community out there. It's been an amazing hour, such rich information. And for me, fabulous being around such powerful individuals. But Alex, what's one tip you would like to share with the EQ community today?
Well, thank you, Jennifer. I mean, I would say the one tip, and I'll actually weave in a response to the question we were not able to get to. Be a servant leader. Servant leadership is one of the best things you can do in your career, especially when you move into people management, because by showing the empathy towards your team, showing the humility towards your team, and being that open with them and help, and basically showing that you're willing, as Shana said earlier, willing to get your hands dirty and get into it to get the work done, is invaluable in your career, because those people, one, will follow you throughout your career and always want to work with you again. 2, when they move up and they surpass you, they will happily try to see how they can bring you up as well. But more importantly, they will help bring others up around them and instill that sort of belief in others, which, to Carol's point, if we can have everyone doing great things for the community, it lifts the entire community up.
Yeah.
Along those lines, and also kind of answering the last question, I always call myself an empathetic leader. I'm a product person by nature, so I'm empathetic to users. I'm empathetic to my teammates, and that's how I got to leadership, is that empathy at its core. And by empathy, what I mean is, you know, everything we do, no matter what industry you're in, there's a technical side, so there's a science to it. But what is often missed is it's a larger portion of it, and it's an art side. And that is, it takes humans as we approach the world of automation, of chatbots, of augmented reality, of AI. In the end, it is the humans that are creating these technical advances that is influencing it. So what you have to remember as a human is, how do I connect with other humans? How do I bring that empathy in the conversation? How do I find the middle ground and what we're trying to move forward? There's always a place for the middle to move forward in that conversation. There's always a chance to hear someone else's side, and being empathetic to that before you speak will change so much of how you lead and how others follow you.
Awesome. I'm going to give you the final voice on today's panel.
And my voice is so similar to what you heard, and that is the importance of developing EQ skills, thus the importance of our EQ community. You know, I frequently say that everyone who comes into an organization has strong IQ skills. That's a given. And as you move up the ladder in this triangle that I say, people gain TQ skills, the technical skills. But those who make it to the top, to the very top, have strong EQ skills, have strong emotional intelligence skills. There's a direct connection between emotional intelligence and leadership. And that's exactly what Shana and Alex were talking about. You cannot lead unless you have emotional intelligence. So lean in and lead with emotional intelligence.
And on that note, I want to thank you all. You've been absolutely amazing. It's been such a pleasure to spend time with you. I want to spend more time with you. And I want to thank our audience for tuning in. And I want to thank you for your really smart and sharp questions, because it helped to bring out the personalities of Carol, Shana, and Alex. So thank you all very much. Have a pleasant day, and see you again very soon.